what's going on.
It'll be a quick meeting.
Thank you, Danielle, for reminding me. Oh, we've got somebody. Okay. Now we've got two. Okay, we've got, all right. So they're able to get in at least. That's good.
Okay, good. Well, let's proceed since I'm hearing no objections to the March 21st meetings. Would somebody make a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Very good.
All in
I think
favor.
that was Ben seconding Andy's motion. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 The minutes of the March 21st meeting are hereby approved. The first application we're going to hear again this evening. Oh, I have to read the call to order.
Yes, you do.
I do. Good evening and welcome to the April 18th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. For all present, let's spend a few minutes reviewing how this meeting will be conducted. For the first 2 hours prior to 9 p.m., we shall hold a public hearing on the applications that you received a notice on and that were listed in the Norwalk Hour for hearing. After the application is announced by the chair and read by the secretary, the applicant will state his or her name for the record and then present the appeal or relief being sought. Please present those zoning issues that are relevant to the practical difficulties or hardship requiring this application. After you or your representative has spoken, those in favor will have a chance to be heard. After that segment, those against the application will have the opportunity to state their opposition for the record. In the case of an appeal, the zoning staff will have the opportunity to present their findings. Finally, after those against the application have spoken, the applicant and only the applicant will have the opportunity to rebut and respond to the issues raised. The hearing is then closed and the next application called. New applications will not normally be heard after 9 p.m. as the board must discuss and act upon these applications. Please note that no further public input is accepted at that time. You are welcome to stay for this portion of tonight's meeting, but should you decide to leave, you may contact the zoning office tomorrow to learn about our decision. Before we proceed tonight, I must remind you that this hearing is a recorded video conference and will become a matter of permanent public record. For public comment period, all commentators must state their name and address, and comments must be on topic. Anyone using threatening, hateful, or sexually explicit language will be cut off and removed from the meeting or will not be allowed to rejoin. The first case to be heard this evening is application 231221-03, Bell Island LLC. This is a meeting continued from December 21st, 2023 and January 18th, 2024. Danielle, if you would
Lee,
read the application.
I think the first item is
I read
a different one.
Yeah.
Why do I
I
have the
think we
wrong
got the
sheet?
wrong
You're
agenda.
correct. I've got two meetings sitting here. The first application to be heard is item 24-0118-01, Joanne Smith.
Yep.
Continued from the January 18th, February 15th, and March 21st, 2024 hearings. Thank you, Danielle.
No problem. All right. So application 24-0018-01, Joanne Smith, requesting a variance for front setback 13'5" proposed. This is the old staff memo. So if there have been changes to this, we can go over it with the application. But the 13.5 foot proposed, 30 foot required, 6 0.2 foot to the existing front porch. Section 118-350C for a proposed one-story northerly addition and a two-story southerly addition, and variance for parking within the front setback, section 118-1220J, at an existing single-family residence in C residence zone. Property is located at 281 East Ave, District 3, Block 42, Lot 22. Request. The applicant seeks variance to add living space and attached garage with storage to the existing dwelling. The single-family home was built in 1930. There are existing nonconformities with the location of the structure and exterior parking. There is an unpermitted lower level unit that will be removed with this proposal. Analysis and findings, the proposed additions to the home will be consistent with other newer homes along East Avenue. The home will remain out of the flood zone. Coastal site plan review and approval from Planning and Zoning Commission will be required subsequent to any variances granted. Amelia Williams notes in her coastal review memo that the front setback variance would allow construction to be further from the tidal waters, but would prefer a decrease in impervious area. The board may consider conditioning any variance grant prohibiting any future living space in the storage area proposed above the garage.
Very good. Will the representative for this application please step forward and identify themselves?
Levy and members of the board, good evening. I'm Liz Suchy, as you know, Carmody, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy. Ms. Smith had asked me to assist her architect, Nick Renzulli, following your 3 meetings and your discussions, commentary. So I was happy to do so, and hopefully we can walk you through what the revisions are, answer your questions, and see if we now have a proposal before you with various hardships and practical difficulties that the property presents that would be acceptable to you. At this point, if Mr. Renzulli is not elevated, could he be? So he can screen share?
Yeah, I just did, sorry. Oh,
Thank-
Nick, you can't decline.
Okay.
Hang on one second.
While that is getting resolved, just some background. As you know, the property is C residence zone. It's about 8,900 square feet in size. Half of it is generally located in the mill pond. So the rear setback is not measured from the property line in the rear, but it's measured from the mean high water. There we go. That presents a challenge to the property for anyone who would do anything to it, since the rear setback measured from the mean high water is 15 feet. Front setback of 30 feet. It's 45 feet that we need to take away from the buildable area. It leaves about a 15-foot deep buildable area for anything that would be constructed. So the original proposal was to remodel the house, leave the front porch, leave the main structure, to convert it from 4 bedrooms, remove the the unit that was not properly permitted. So make it a 3-bedroom structure. And as you saw the last few months, to construct a 2-car garage on the southern side of the building. And the proposal originally was for storage above that garage, and a rear shed that exists on the westerly side of the property, where he's circling right now, would be removed. The addition to the north, as was indicated in the memo, would be approximately 13.5 feet from the property line rather than 30 feet. And the garage would be about 14.2 feet from the property line rather than 30. East Avenue in this section is one way in a westerly direction. There is no on-street parking permitted in front of the dwelling. It is posted no parking. There's also a bike lane that runs right along the front of this property and several others. So the new addition to the north, as I said, would be 13.6 feet setback and 14.2 to the garage instead of the 30 required. At your last meeting and others, there was concern expressed, I believe, about the massing of the structure as proposed. I don't believe there was considerable concern with respect to the garage, since it would allow for 2 conforming parking spaces to be situated off-site, even though a variance would be necessary since some of the parking spaces intrude into the front setback. But with regard to the massing and intrusions into the setback for that northerly expansion, we spoke to the applicant, spoke to her architect. And if we could go to the next page, the project has been revised and hopefully in a way that is satisfactory. The interior of the structure and the exterior will still be remodeled. The unit in the basement that did not have permits, that would be removed. The 2-car garage would remain, but instead of storage above, the area above would then be converted into a master bath suite. That leaves the northern addition that seemed to be of greatest concern to this board over the past few months. Nick, can you screen share the next sheet that shows the proposed? While he's doing that, what was suggested is instead of having a addition to the extent that it's shown on this sheet, it's been reduced in size by about 35% to about 14 feet by 15 feet. Instead of it being a master bedroom suite, it would be an addition to accommodate a new kitchen in that area so that the main floor could have the kitchen, dining room, a half bath, and a living room area with the garage on the other side. So we've reduced the square footage of that addition by about 220 to 228 square feet, down from about 350. That in turn reduced the coverage, which is even conforming today with this plan. The coverage would be reduced by about 1.5%. And the side yard setback on the northerly side of the property would be increased from what was originally proposed as 37 feet to 55 feet. Nick, can you screen share that other sheet?
I believe this is the proposed. This is the change.
No, we're still seeing the original. Sorry about that.
I apologize.
So with the revision, this revision that we'd like you to consider, the coverage is still compliant. There we go. Side yard setbacks clearly compliant. The rear yard height, number of stories are all compliant. The 2-car garage, I believe, is essential for this property since there is no on-street parking in front of the property. It's only across the street, and there are multifamily residential structures across. So there's limited parking in this neighborhood. And we would hope that the reduction in that northerly addition would be sufficient for you to deem it appropriate to grant relief. As you know, as I said before, about half of the lot is underwater since the mill pond occupies a good portion of the rear of the property. So that impacts the developable area and the setbacks. As I said before, the rear yard setback is measured from mean high water and not the property line. That reduces a building envelope that's about 15 feet in depth. It ends up that there is a very long and narrow buildable area. There's also the AE flood line that traverses part of the property that we wanted to avoid. And there is a substantial topographic differential from the back of the property up to the level plateau where the 1-story addition on the north would be located. It's about a 10-foot differential. We'll still eliminate the shed and the 2 parking spaces obviously would be situated in the garage. And unfortunately, we can't move that garage further back due to the topo issues. So those spaces would intrude into the front setback. So this is the plan that shows the revisions based upon the comments you made. That 1-story addition on the north side has been reduced substantially. We hope that these changes to the plan allay your fears and concerns and address them in a way that's adequate. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have or provide you with show you any more of the plans, including perhaps the front elevation, which would give you a better sense of what the final product would be.
Yes, why don't you show us the front elevation?
Sure. So at the top of the screen, Chairman Levy, you will see that the new addition is substantially smaller and it's 1-story, no storage above. It would just be additional living space. And when the interior of that dwelling is remodeled, the kitchen would be in that area with the dining room next to it and a den or living room. As someone walks right into the house, the dining room open plan would be right in front of them. The garage would remain as is on the right as originally proposed. And instead of storage above, that would be the master bedroom suite with a bath.
Oh, the massing is certainly improved from the prior application. or prior submission. So I'm pleased to see that.
We're happy to answer any questions you have, or if there's anything else you want us to provide tonight. We know that tonight is the night you must act on this application. So if you have any questions, please ask them so that we can move this matter forward.
Do we have any board members wish to comment further?
The only thing that we've been dealing with lately is making sure that we have a firm understanding of the practical difficulty or other reason that they're before us.
Well, I think they've certainly met the challenge of the site.
Well, remember, they want to do it wider than we had suggested.
Yes,
That is cut down
considerably.
from what they had initially proposed. But we do need them to say, rather than we say, what the hardship is. I think I could make one up, but let them do it.
I'd be happy to reiterate those again. There are a variety of them. One is the topographic differential from where we can build to where if we were to push that northern addition to meet the setback, there's a 10-foot drop between that plateau area of the property and behind it where we would have to move the house, move that addition to. We're also trying to stay out of the AE zone and flood zone. We'd like to stay as far away from that as possible. And that mirrors the comments from Amelia Williams of the Planning and Zoning Department staff. The issue with having a lot that's only 60 feet deep, even though the lot area and the lot itself, if you were to measure it to the property line, it's only 60 feet deep. And when you apply a 30-foot front setback and a 15-foot rear, it makes it very difficult to accommodate that northern addition in an area that makes sense and is coordinated with the existing house, which is going to remain. So between the topographic challenges, the AE zone requirements, the limited building envelope in an area that may not be optimum, we think that this is the best of a situation in which there are many challenges on this lot. And we hope that you agree.
Yeah, I think you've come a long way, and you know, it is a challenge. I go by this frequently. It is a challenging plot, and you may have threaded the needle here.
So our main suggestion, Liz, was that the space above the double garage had been planned as storage.
Mhm.
It had some unusual access to it. So we wondered if it was really storage. And we can kind of deal with that tonight. Secondly, if the plan was to increase space for occupant living area, then that living area could be above the garage. Well, it appears the plan has changed and there's substantial living area above the garage. The only question that might be remaining in my mind is whether you need the bump out on the one side or not. And I do think the lot is constraining. I do think I could pretty much live with this plan, but I want to make sure that there aren't any additional dwelling units included in this or will be in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Conroy. And yes, there is the based upon the discussion you had with the applicant prior to my joining this team, there was a concern about that storage space only above the garage and the massing of the addition proposed on the north. So the idea was to rearrange that space above the garage and make that the master bedroom suite rather than have it on the first floor on the north side of the property. That enabled us to make that addition substantially smaller so that it's only the kitchen and dining room and living room would be on that side of the property. And it's only a single family house. It's being reduced from 4 bedrooms right now to 3 bedrooms. And of course, one of those was a bedroom that existed apparently without permits. So it'd be a 3-bedroom house, single family dwelling. And if that is a condition of approval, you can certainly add that to your list of conditions if you have any others. And that could be incorporated into the certificate of variance, which is recorded on the land records. So it's abundantly clear to anyone, this owner or future owners, that can only be a single family residence.
That's good. Actually, it wasn't me that brought it up initially, it was Lee. But
I
I
apologize.
had some massing issues and Lee had brought up the issue of it could the space above the garage become an apartment? So I want to make sure that that does not happen.
My apologies for misrepresenting who said what, but
No,
I understand.
I think it's been addressed fairly well, and given that the master bedroom is moved over the garage,
Yep,
I don't think it presents really any opportunity for a second dwelling unit within the structure.
Well, so
Um,
that's, currently there was an illegal unit in the basement, so it may be, the board may wish to condition the approval with no future accessory dwelling unit.
yeah, that's
I
what I
think
wanted.
that's easy to do.
I think
That's
there
what I
might,
wanted.
excuse me for interrupting, I think there might also be a problem if someone were to come forward with a desire to have an accessory dwelling unit because there's a parking issue. There's only a 2-car garage for this single family house. With an accessory dwelling unit, I believe you need to have another parking space. That would have to be behind a setback, and I think there's limited room for that to happen. But my client is more than happy to have any approval, if you deem it appropriate to grant one, conditioned upon this remaining a single family dwelling only with no accessory apartments, with no other dwelling units, but it be only a single family residential structure.
Yeah, I would prefer to
Um,
condition it.
Yeah, I think I could live with that condition.
That's fine. More than appropriate.
Good. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll ask if there is any member of the public that wishes to speak in favor of this application.
Okay, so we have one raised hand.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Diane CC ENNA. I'm sorry, did you just say you're only requesting speakers in favor?
Well, that's initially, if there are no other speakers, we will then move on to any speaker which chooses to speak against this application.
Okay, I will defer back to Tammy if there's someone else who wants to speak before I speak then. And
Okay, we don't have any other raised hands. If you've dialed in, you need to press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. No,
Well,
no raised hands.
Hearing none, I think we'll let Diane CC speak.
good evening, everyone. Thank you. And I appreciate the fact that the applicant has come back with some of the revisions that addressed your concerns. I expressed a number of concerns at the past meetings. I don't really want to go over all of them again, but I can say that what I'm seeing tonight may appear to address some of them, but I'm still struggling to understand why you would consider this a hardship. And I think that's like the basis of approving the addition and the modifications that you're looking at. So, and I will also say that originally I was neither opposed nor in favor of this, just more concerned about the process and what this structure could end up looking like. And because it's still significant to me, I would say, you know, at this point, I'd be opposed to it being approved. I realize that it's the chairman's discretion to answer any questions, but I'll throw some out there that I still have concerns with. The whole debate that started with the structure that was going to be above the garage that caused everyone concern for whether it would ultimately be additional living space, especially since there appeared to be some access to it. The discussion that started around that space had to do with the fact that the owner of the property was looking to have storage space that didn't exist in the structure. So I'm struggling to understand where the existing 3 bedrooms were then in this property. And because there is a basement unit, or there is a basement there, why the consideration for storage wasn't the basement all along. why there was ever any consideration of having something over the garage, adding, more height to this structure. So I think, I kind of would like to know where the other bedrooms are in this structure that we're calling now something that's above the garage. We're referring to it as the master bedroom and the master bath. The fact that the bathroom is there actually gives me even more concern than I had before about the fact that this could be used as a rental unit within the property. I'm still not clear too. I think you were just asking the question about where the access is to that unit. Is it entirely internally from the main portion of the house, or how would someone access that bedroom and bath? Especially, is there any access coming from that back deck? That's number one. Number two, I still don't understand. I realize that they've decreased the square footage of the northern addition, but again, I'm struggling to understand why that addition is necessary, especially now that what they've changed the storage above the garage to is a master bedroom and a bath. So why is that necessary to add on to the northern area? One of the concerns I know that you all shared as well was the increase in impervious surface, and that's still contributing to that. In terms of what Attorney Sucky was talking about in her definition of bringing this before you as a hardship, with the topography, the flood zone, the layout, and the setbacks. I think I mentioned this last time, and maybe it's because I just don't understand how this process works. But in my mind, a hardship in this case might be someone who purchased this house a long time ago and has lived there, and now has some either event or change of condition of their life where they need now to modify it to be able to use it in a means that they didn't need before. For example, perhaps they own this house and it was sufficient in size and layout for them, for a couple living alone, and now perhaps they have aging in place issues and need to make modifications that they couldn't foresee, or perhaps they have adult children with needs that need to be cared for in the house, or perhaps they need to be cared for in the house and now they need a remedy to be able to have a live-in care. And so I would think that I would consider that a hardship, and I think the board would consider that a hardship. But the fact of the matter is that this homeowner purchases property, knowing the layout of the property, knowing what was allowed here and what wasn't allowed here. There doesn't seem to be any record that I know of that the purchase of it was conditioned on being able to come before your board and have some of these changes made. Especially since I think it was Mr. Renzulli in the first or second presentation said that the purpose of the purchase of this parcel, despite the fact that it states in their application that the person lives here and they do not, maybe that needs to be clarified again, but supposedly the purpose of this and the hardship is that this is something where the applicant, the owner of the property is looking to downsize from their existing home and then make this their retirement home. And I would say if this is downsizing with this addition and, the size of the master bedroom and bath and garage and everything else, I'm surprised. I'm surprised to hear that would be a valid reason that you would consider.
Diane, may I interrupt you 1 second?
Yep. Thanks.
Have you had the opportunity to look at the floor plans at all?
Only during your presentation, so I'm seeing them on screen.
Okay, the floor plans clearly show that the 2 bedrooms in the main mass of the house are on the second floor. There is no place to put a 4th bedroom up there, and the master suite is very clearly delineated, and the only access that I see to that bedroom suite is from the main staircase of the house. There's no access from a balcony or exterior staircase.
And so the point then is,
Hold on a
what is the
second.
need for the
Hold
northern?
hold on a minute.
Oh.
Tammy, can we display the floor plan for the second floor?
Nicholas, do you want to share, you want to show that, or do you want me to?
I'd like to see the floor plan for the second floor.
I can show it.
Thank you. You can move.
Maybe
it
they can
with your
blow it up
fingers.
a little
You
bit
make it
for,
big. Make it bigger with your fingers. Diane. There you go. So I don't see stairs coming off the balcony.
No, there are none.
Well, Mr. Architect, you can fix that. The stairwell interior, more to the center of the building, looks like the way to go up and down
Yeah, that's the only access to the second floor.
this time. I know that in the previous one, there was, your concern, as well as mine, is there was a wraparound stair on the outside.
Yeah, there was a stair going up to that storage area on the second floor.
Yeah,
That's gone.
all right. And then physically, if there's anything out there that could be converted to that, it needs to be removed. Or we're all clear on that, right? So the
I'm
only way to
very
get up
clear.
and down is through the interior stairway. I mean, yeah, you could jump off the balcony. I mean, in a fire or whatever, but there's not a garage access that was once proposed. That doesn't exist.
So I think with restrictions, we can put on this, I think, Diane, I don't have any concern that an additional dwelling unit can be added to this house.
and I'm okay with that as long as you guys are convinced that what we thought was just storage now being living space with a bathroom doesn't actually then set up to have that as a separate living space. So if you
It
guys are
can't
fine
be.
with that, then that still doesn't answer my question about looking at the layout of this house. And maybe it's coming from my perspective because I live in a relatively small house. I'll still move over then and say I'm struggling to understand why you would consider an addition on the northern side, albeit the reduced one that you're seeing tonight.
It's a kitchen.
So where is the existing kitchen in this property right now?
I assume it's somewhere where the family room and dining room is.
Yep. That's where it was.
Yeah.
Just the existing.
Okay, and
house
so it's a
that we have is-
hardship then to have, so the hardship is the kitchen is too small for someone's preference. And therefore, in order to make it the kitchen, perhaps their dream kitchen, okay.
I don't see the kitchen. Diane, I
guess I'm
don't see the
struggling with
kitchen as
hardship, and you
being
don't have to
a
walk me
reason
through.
for the hardship. When I look at hardship, I look at lot shape, configuration, natural features, meaning topography, waterfront, specimen trees, things like that. That's what we look at in terms of true hardship.
Right. So if you go back to the survey for a minute, and then maybe we can point out to Diane where that front setback lies. And you can see where it is with relation to the house. It basically means that any proposed addition or change to this house is gonna end up, if it doesn't stay exactly in the existing footprint, it's gonna end up in front of the the ZBA here.
Right,
Who's-
I understand that.
Right.
But what I don't understand is why it's a hardship when the property was purchased knowing these conditions existed. I guess that's what I'm struggling with, and that is an issue that's probably not within your purview to have to answer. If this was
Diane, I will
something where
answer
someone-
it this way. We see dozens of projects with difficult sites. There are no easy sites anymore. And we have to take into consideration the physical aspect of every site. And from my perspective, on this board and as an architect in practice for 45 years, I view this as a potential good candidate for a hardship variance, given the difficulties of the site.
I don't disagree with you, Lee.
Thank you.
My argument is that if there were someone who was already living there and these
It
conditions.
means nothing to us. Who
Right.
lives there means nothing.
Right,
whether
and that's why
they're-
I'm saying that there's no sense in me having this discussion because it's not relevant to, you know, what your board is considering. It does,
Right.
the fact that she purchased it knowing this, and then the intention was to come before you then to say this is a hardship to do what I'd like to do. I understand the difference here. So my
Well-
only concern then at this point is that if you're satisfied with the fact that they can still have the northern addition, and really what you only were looking for there was a reduction in the size of that, and they've now complied with that, then it sounds like it meets all the things that you would have under your review that is now acceptable. So I will leave it at that, and thank you for the opportunity and always taking the time to educate me on this stuff as well. I
Well,
appreciate that
that's
too.
part of what we do, and I appreciate your concern. We take input like yours very seriously, and this is something we will consider when we do our deliberations.
I'm certain the attorney wants to rebut, but could staff have a minute to respond to the hardship?
Please go ahead, Tammy.
So I went over that last meeting. So personal hardships, financial hardships, unless there's no use of the property, aren't zoning hardships. Zoning hardships are topographic, ledge, something unique and peculiar about the site. It's not related to who lives there or who's gonna live there, because the variance is granted, they always run with the land. They're infinitum, right? So we can condition them, but we can't say it only applies to this aging person or to this disabled person. So that's why statute defines and limits zoning hardships in the manner that they do. Thanks.
Thank you, Tammy. Ms. Sachi, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, just a few comments. I appreciate Ms. Cece coming out to the Zoning Board of Appeals to opine on a project on this particular in this particular section of Norwalk. I do want to call your attention to the fact that no neighbors who have been notified of this hearing have come out to object. Topography is a classic hardship, and a hardship is that the strict application of the regulations to a particular piece of property and a project proposed create an unnecessary practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship. The strict application, and as Ms. Maldonado indicated, as Commissioner Sanchek, as Commissioner Conroy, and also you, Mr. Chairman, have indicated, the topography is a challenge. The limited building envelope is a challenge based upon where the setbacks are drawn from the mean high water to the rear and the front. If you look at this plan, it's clear that the building envelope is that dotted line right in the middle. Anything that could be constructed would have to be constructed within that area. That then then there's an issue of the 100-year flood line and the AE flood zone. So these are challenges on this lot that I think militate toward the granting of variance. Ms. Maldonado is absolutely correct that a personal reason is not a reason to grant a variance, and that's been very clear in the state of Connecticut and case law in Connecticut. And this board has always held that a personal reason is not a reason to grant a variance. That's a personal hardship. Lastly, the height of the structure complies, and the impervious surface has been reduced by the reduction in the size of that northerly addition, but it complied with the original plan. So I would suggest to you that given the challenges of this property that you've all heard, that Chairman Levy has also articulated again, that the variances sought are reasonable and that the hardships support those requests. I thank you for your time tonight and hope that you will be able to act this evening. So if you have any other questions for me or for Mr. Renzulli, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chief.
Sure.
Appreciate your comments.
Lee,
Okay.
your questions about drainage, did they ever get answered?
You know, that I don't think we've gotten an answer on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we did. That's why I brought it up. Just a little reminder.
Oh, thank you, Andy. I think the question that I raised in the past was, has there been a discussion with DPW on stormwater retention, detention? Has there been any conversation with DPW?
I can certainly answer that at this point. After,
Please do.
if in fact you deem it appropriate to grant the relief sought, the next step would be to apply for a coastal area management application with the zoning commission if it falls within if it meets the thresholds, if it exceeds the thresholds. If it does, that application would go to Planning and Zoning Commission, and it would be referred to the Department of Public Works for their review. If it's not an application necessary to the Planning and Zoning Commission, when this applicant files for a building permit, typically the building department will refer these applications to the Department of Public Works for them to opine and weigh in on stormwater management.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
We had one more point, Liz, that we asked the architect if he could make sure that the new paving was semi-pervious.
I don't see that as an issue. And you can
Actually, on the site plan, Andy, it's noted as pervious.
there you go.
Yeah, I can't read it, so what, if it does say that it's semi-pervious, then we're in good shape.
Yes, it does.
It says pervious asphalt, so I think your question has been answered. So I apologize for missing that.
No, I think we're good on it, Andy. Okay, shall we move on to the next application before us? Item 3B, application 24-0418-01, Christy Juster, property located at 2 Rocky Point Road. Danielle?
Sure. 24-0418-01 Christy Juster, variance for number of stories. 2.5 maximum allowed, 3.5 proposed from Parkview Road, Article 4. Table 4.3.1-C District Standards for proposed addition over existing attached garage of a single family residence in CD-1S zone. Property located at 2 Rocky Point Road, District 6, Block 36, Lot 44. Request: the applicant seeks variance for number of stories for an addition to be constructed above the existing garage. Background: this single-family dwelling was built in 2001. Variances were granted for setbacks for the construction of the house and in-ground pool. Analysis and findings: the former zoning regulations designated one zoning front, the narrower of the two fronts on a corner lot. At that time, stories were measured from that designated front. Zoning regulations amended effective 2/19/2024 designate two fronts on corner lots, principal and secondary. However, there is no designation of a singular frontage from which story is to be calculated. Adhering to the strict application of the story calculation from both frontages could be considered a practical difficulty. The proposed height of the addition will not exceed the existing roof line. And then we have some new definitions. Story, a level within a building, being that the portion included between the surface of any floor and the surface of the floor next above it. If there is no floor above it, then the space between the floor and the ceiling next above it, excluding an attic that does not exceed a half story or a basement. The number of stories shall be measured from the finished grade along the frontage of a structure and/or building. The definition of frontage. The area between a building facade and a path, passage, watercourse, civic space, or the curb, or if there is no curb, the edge of the vehicular lanes of a street having vehicular lanes. Inclusive of the built and planted components of such area. Frontage is divided into private frontage and public frontage. See illustration 9.3.f-5. Frontages and lot or building sight lines, and table 4.3.7.a, private frontage types. Corner lots and building sites have two frontages, a principal frontage and a secondary frontage. See illustration 9.3.f-3, principal and secondary frontage. Definition of grade, finished. The average elevation of a particular set of points above or below a given reference datum, such as mean sea level, measured after the completion of construction, development, grading, and/or similar improvements. The finished grade shall be measured by averaging the lowest exterior ground elevations on the same lot or building site within 10 feet of the designated sample points, such that sample points being located 5 feet apart along a line located 10 feet outside the building or structure, except that if the building or structure is located less than 10 feet from a property line, the points shall be located at the midpoint between the building or structure and the property line. For any building or structure with less than 4 measurement points, the planning and zoning director shall determine the average grade. Where the finished grade is established by filling, determination of the first floor elevation should not be greater than 3 feet above the existing grade, except that in flood hazard zone overlay, section 6.9, determination of the first floor elevation shall not be greater than 4 feet above the existing grade.
Very good. Will the representative for this application please raise their hand and be identified?
Raised hand. Hand is raised.
Very good, Mr. Maslin.
Thank you.
Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good to see everyone. Some faces I have seen in the past, others I haven't. My name is Robert Maslin. I'm the attorney for Christy Juster, who is unfortunately out of state on a business commitment. With me tonight, and he's on here, Kent Epley, who is the designer and builder for this, should we be so fortunate to have this variance granted. Tammy, what do I need to do to share screen? Hit share screen and.
Yep, you should be able to do it. Let me know if not.
All right, let me see how this is gonna work. Share. Oh, this one. Let's do this one. Okay. What I've done here is prepared a PowerPoint rather than try to flip back and forth between Adobe programs, etc. And I think this way it'll help move things along. So I want to start with an overview. As mentioned in the legal notice, we're requesting a variance of the number of stories under table 4.3.1-C. It took a few days of discussions with Tammy to figure out what variance we needed under the new regulation. And I got the sense after I heard the reading of those 3 definitions that they're not always crystal clear. So we settled on this variance of table 4.3.1-C. The existing site conditions are, as you noted in previous applications, it's a non-conforming site. It's well under the minimum lot area. The northern portion of the site is in flood zone AE elevation 13 or 15 rather, which leaves about 4 feet of water in the basement garage during the 100-year storm. The entire frontage along Parkview Road is in flood zone AE. The garage floor elevation is 11.2, so there's your 3.8 feet actually during the 100-year storm. And under the new regulations, floors have to be raised to 2 feet above 15. So that in itself creates a challenge to building on this site. Then you go over to Rocky Point Road and this entrance sill is at 14.9, which is 1.2 inches below the 15-foot flood elevation. So you can see a pretty good variation in the elevations as you go from one street to the other. The lowest finished floor right now is 25.8, and that's the first floor, which is actually above the entrance door on the main entrance door on Rocky Point, and also above the existing garage. In the upper level, when I get to the floor plan, you see this a little more clearly. Right now, the upper level is a small loft, partially above the existing kitchen and eating area. There's a bedroom that's above the garage that is a few steps away in vertical distance from the kitchen floor. So we're kind of wedged in here. When you walk in the front door, you walk into a landing and you have to turn left to go up or right to go down, but there's no rooms at the level of the front door. The existing building residence was built in 2001. The variances were for setbacks all the way around. There was no variance required for building height in that, and a copy of the variance is in the application papers. The finished garage, and you'll see a photograph of this in a minute, contains an emergency generator mounted on a suspended platform that's at the appropriate height given the flood zone. But it accounts for some of the ceiling height and again, some of the challenges on this site. The site topography varies roughly 8 feet from the left side boundary, looking from Rocky Point down to 10.2 plus or minus along Parkview. So the average grade, if you measure it under the current regulations, is 15.5. And when you look at the ceiling in the garage, it's more than 3 feet above that. The average grade causes the garage now to count as a story. And the reason for this is, as Tammy mentioned in her staff memo, previously you looked at it from what would be called the primary frontage now, but it's the entrance where the frontage is the shortest, I guess, or the narrowest of the two frontages. And in that situation, you look at it from Rocky Point Road, and the garage is pretty much underneath it. It's not an issue, and it wouldn't count as a story. Today, or after February, I think, 19th, now you have to look at it from both streets to determine how many stories you have. So as a result of that, the garage counts as a story because the ceiling is high enough as you view it from Parkview. There's an existing 1-bedroom over the garage, and that is on a level that now counts as a second story. So what started as a 1.5-story building is now, as a result of the new regulations, a 2.5-story building because you now have to count the garage. So our proposal is to expand upward, build a new playroom or bedroom, depending on how you use it, with a bath and closet space above the existing room above the garage. So you basically have 2 levels above the garage. The plan includes an elevator that will get you from the garage up to the various floor levels. One for the kitchen, and then obviously for the upper level, the new room. A lobby / mudroom down in the garage, and it's going to be in the middle of the 3 bays. So we're losing a bay, but we still have 2 parking spaces, which complies. And we're allowed to have a minimal area for access to the upper floors located in a flood zone like this. So this is flood compliant. The roof on the addition is actually going to be lower than the existing roof over the eastern portion of the house. You'll see this more when we get to the elevations. Flood zone compliance at the garage level. There's no vents today. There will be vents to comply with the flood regulations. The electrical panels and any other equipment that is now currently not 2 feet above the base flood elevation will be raised. So there's a benefit there. No change in the existing yards, setbacks, or building height measured in feet. Now, oddly enough, there is no height limit measured in feet under the current regulations. In other words, you no longer measure from the average grade to the peak or the midpoint of the roof. What you have is vertical height limits measured from the floor of the first floor to the floor of the second floor. That's 13 feet. And then you get 11 feet floor to ceiling. And then there's another height dimension from the floor of the attic up to the rafters, 7.5 feet. And that, I think, is a reflection of the intent here of the regulations to regulate the form of buildings and developments on lot rather than just numerical calculations.
Mr. Maslin, if I may interrupt, could you put up a site plan for this?
Sure. This is an aerial. Site's in the middle. The Rocky Point's on the right, and Parkview goes left, right, up toward the top. And I will get to, I'll blow this up a little bit because I know zoning location survey. So Rocky Point Road has, this survey shows the spot elevations. We're at 15.3 on a couple of them, 14.4 at the corner. Then you go to Parkview and you got 13 up in this corner here and 10.2 in the driveway. The back portion is up at close to 18. There's, I believe, 7, well, it's a new elevation, but the spots, here's one, 18.0. Over here is an existing one. So that gives you an idea of the topography. The setbacks are this dotted line here. And as you can see, the actual building area is not, building envelope rather on the site is not very large. So the main house is this large rectangle. The darker part here is where 2 of the garage bays are located, and above this is where the existing bedroom and the additional room above will go. This little square on the back side of the house here is actually, this labeling is a little bit confusing, but it's basically a 1-level study, and it's off the main part of the house by a couple of steps, and we'll see that in the floor plan. And then, and obviously some of the pictures, I can get back to them. Existing in-ground pool is here, and really no significant structural changes to any of this other than just going straight up on the existing footprint of the house. Any questions?
Bob, help me understand the little square that you were talking about, saying it's essentially a 1-level study. And this reads 2.5. I'm trying to read it. I'm only seeing part of what's there. 2.5 story. That little square?
Well, the entire building is now 2.5 story.
Yeah.
This is included in it. This is not a label just for this square.
But
Alright.
if you look at it, it's like livable space interior is
Yes.
one level, but it's raised one level up. And
Correct.
then there's a covered terrace below it.
If you'll
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
let me go back to, I have a good photograph of it here. Okay, this is taken, the right-hand picture is taken from Rocky Point Road. This stone structure here with the study above with the windows,
Yeah,
that's the study we're talking about. Underneath is open. And it's
okay.
through this stone. If I, unfortunately, I didn't think to take the picture. Oh, maybe it's here. No, that's the main entrance. But that's what that study is about. It's,
Well, it's on an upper level, regardless of how you describe it.
it's,
Um,
I'm sorry.
I understand the 2.5 story.
Yeah. Yep. That under the old regulations, that's what we would end up with is 2.5 stories. So moving over to the plans, on the left here, we have the garage level. And here's that covered terrace. That this is basically the garage level floor plan. One bay over on the left facing Parkview. And in the middle here is a second bay, but what's proposed in here is this little square is the elevator shaft with the mudroom here. And then the third garage bay is going to remain, and that's the one on the right. There's a set of stairs that goes up from here up to a landing where the main entrance is, and that's here. And then you have to go up again. And you'll see on the next set of plans, you kind of go up in kind of a few steps at a time. This door is on a landing that's midway along the staircase, and it faces out onto the pool level. The elevation on the left, or cross-section, shows the mudroom elevation here. Our floor to floor height is 13 feet 7 inches. Then you get to the existing bedroom. Above that is the existing roof line, which is down here. The proposal is to go straight up and put in the new room and have the new roof line up at this level. The existing roof for the rest of the house is roughly a foot or so, or maybe 1.5 feet higher than what we're proposing. So as the memo said, we're within the existing peak, I guess, of the existing roof. This board here is a dormer that will stick out of the roof starting here. This portion of the board is inside the attic. You don't see it. First floor, the existing first floor plan is this, right? Starting with that study, then we have steps to get to a hallway and then the existing bedroom over the garage. We have a hallway out here that'll get you to the stairs to go down, and a hallway over here to get you to stairway going up into the kitchen. The kitchen is this entire area here. This dotted line is the loft upstairs. And that's the size of it here. So we have main entrance here, go up a couple steps to a landing at the corner, up a few more steps, and then you're here. And now you're at a hallway, and you can either go over to the study, more steps, or more steps up to the kitchen, or you go over straight to the bedroom. Full bath here, And right now, that's the bath. The proposal is to improve the existing bedroom by raising the roof all the way across. So not the roof, the ceiling, the current ceiling. I don't know what the architect's word for it is, but it does cut down. You don't have a flat ceiling. There's, because of the roof line, you're getting this slanted portion along the edges. By raising the ceiling and putting the other floor on, you eliminate that, so you have a horizontal ceiling. Elevators over here. The kitchen is pretty much the same. There'll be some updates, but no change to the outside structure, no enlargement or anything like that. And the rest is hall space and closet, the bath here. And then we get to the second floor, or second floor existing. Here, remove existing roof. And over here, this is really what the loft looks like, floor plan of the loft. There's a little half bath here. And this is open below, down to the kitchen and eating area. So the proposed addition is the new playroom here, which could be playroom or bedroom. It's got a closet, it's got a full bath. Elevator comes right up to the room. And the loft will stay here, but you'll notice that a wall here that actually separates these two sides of the house. So once you come up the stairs, you're only coming up to the bedroom. You can't get from the bedroom directly to the loft. And these are elevations. This is from, the left one is from Park View Road, existing. And the right one is Park View Road proposed. So you'll see the existing roof line is here. And you'll see the roof over that study with the little vertical piece sticking up here. The proposed roof line comes up this far, not all the way up to this existing peak. That vertical little spire, or whatever you call it, just juts up a little bit here. And then this long rectangular piece is that little dormer that pokes out. That's for these windows. So that's the elevations on that side. This is the south elevation from the southerly property. You look at this as Rocky Point Road on the right side. And here's your study with the open area. Basically, this is just the backside of the elevation that you showed. New roof. It shows you where it is in relation to the existing roof. Little balcony above the door. And that's it for that. This is the west elevation. You're looking toward the direction of Rocky Point Road from the side lot line, and the garages down here face to the left. So here's your existing roof line. And the proposed roof line is up here for most of it, and then there's a little piece of it that remains. So that's the plan. I'll go through the hardships now, and then I guess I'll finish up with Tammy's memo and neighbor support. So up until the new regulations, this could have been built without variance. We were going straight up, and under the rule on yards, side yard nonconformities, going straight up did not trigger a new variance requirement. What triggered it in this case is the definition of story, and the fact that you have to now consider story or determine stories based on both frontages, not just the primary frontage. The existing residence could not have been built without the variance that were granted in 2000. The setbacks are roughly the same, or minimum yards. Now we have a separate setback concept in the new regulations. But the board found that the undersized corner lot was unbuildable, strict application of the regulations. And I'll expand on that in a minute. The impervious surface area here is 60.2%, which is way over the new maximum requirement. So we can't go horizontally on the basis of impervious. We don't want to go any closer to boundaries and thereby exacerbate non-conforming setbacks. The site topography talked about, it varies widely, and that's why you look at this from one street and it looks like a one-story building or 1.5-story building. You look at the other one and all of a sudden it's 2.5. Flood zones. The flood zone, I want to just go back to the survey because I didn't cover this before. But the flood zone line, the flood zone boundary is right along in here, cuts right through the middle of the house. AE elevation 15 is to the right on the Parkview side, and flood zone X is on the left. And what this means is, because a portion of the house is in flood zone A, you have to treat the entire house as being in flood zone A. And that means 2 feet above the 15-foot base flood elevation, which means basically you can never finish the garage and use it for living space because of that. Let me go back now to my hardship slide. So that's the story on the flood regulations. And I just mentioned the garage level can't be finished, except for that modest lobby and mudroom for access, which is allowed under the regulations. Staff memo, Tammy mentioned, what did I do with it? It said the story calculation from both frontages could be considered a practical difficulty. Yes, obviously, that's topographic. I heard you discuss earlier topographic based hardships, flood zone hardship, the size of the lot, which needs variance no matter, all kind of combined for one big hardship. Neighbor support, in the record, we submitted a separate email from one of the neighbors at 1 Rocky Point Road. I hate to call it a petition, but it's a support memo signed off by 7 other neighboring property owners. Christy had a gathering at her house over the weekend to present the plan to the neighbors and ask for their support. We've got nothing negative, at least not that I'm aware of, and we have eight folks supporting this. So that's it. Any questions for me or Kent? We're happy to answer them.
First thing that jumped into my mind, and not directed specifically at this application, but somewhere in your presentation, you stated there's a generator in the garage.
Yeah, we skipped over all the photos.
Well,
I never got
is it a legal generator?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
very surprising.
Yeah.
I've seen them before, and you'll see the panels over here on the right. They're too low. They're going to have to be taken out and raised to meet the current flood regulations. This looks like a central vac system. If it's not going to be removed entirely, it'll be raised up to meet the regulations.
Mhm.
So yes, that's a conforming, fully permitted generator.
Okay. Thank you for that
And
information.
is
Other board
that
members?
Well, I have a follow-up question to that. Is that generator and its platform location setting the floor level of what you're proposing above the garage here? Because like none of the floors align in this house.
That's right. That's one of the strange things about this house. And I'm not sure what your question was.
Well, I mean, is this what's setting the floor level being too tall to exceed 1 story, right?
You're talking about the generator
Yeah,
platform?
setting the height of the floor above it.
Yeah.
I don't,
No, I didn't look at that.
Yeah.
You know,
No, it doesn't, sorry. It's from the base, the garage base
Yeah.
or garage floor to the true ceiling above is 1 story. The proposed playroom will be, or sorry, the existing bedroom will be the 2nd story. The proposed playroom will be the 3rd story. And then there's a little 1/2 story with that chute because it's from the floor below to either the roof above or the ceiling above.
Got it.
Okay,
I don't know. Can you hear me? Can I?
yes, yes. Oh,
Yeah, this is Kent Epley from ERI Building. So yeah, I mean, this was actually the guest house for one Rocky Point. And then it was sold off separate to my client. Why they did this is it's essentially a very tall split level house. And it's got meandering stairs all over the place to get to these various levels. So I'm not exactly sure why they did that. I'm assuming the generator was put inside and permitted inside in order because of some of the constraints of putting it outside anywhere and having the room for that. But I don't know why it was initially designed that, but essentially we actually are 2 feet below the existing ridge of the east side structure, and it's about 10 feet taller than what's there now, just with the dormer on it. So right now the house really has a bedroom level, the master, and then you step up to a kitchen that has the loft above it, and there's just no place for a family room or like a regular room where you would just watch TV and hang out. So that's the whole purpose, is to try and it looks way bigger than it is. But the plan is to get a decent master, get an elevator in there, get a nice kitchen, and then have a family room space.
So the playroom is really what's being proposed as the main living room.
That would be really the only place, because other than that, it's a kitchen, the bedroom, there's that small office, which is very small. That's that open stone, that room above there is very tiny. So yes, it's really the place like most normal houses would have a family room or a room where you could hang and watch TV and be with friends, kind of thing.
It's basically a 1-bedroom cottage is one way to look at it. You have a kitchen with an eating area and a bedroom, and the rest is a tiny loft that you wouldn't use as a bedroom necessarily, and a full bath and a half bath, right, Kent? And that's it.
Yeah, there's actually 2 full baths. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That loft bath, there is a small shower in there.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's an open space. It's not an enclosed bedroom.
any further questions from the board?
Am I understanding correctly, the footprint is unchanged?
Unchanged. Yeah, it's just up and over that one space. That's it. And like I said, it overall it's 10 feet ridge to ridge, still 2 feet below the east side structure that exists.
Are you proposing any changes to the property, say the paved area, now that you're taking up one, garage bay essentially with an elevator and a mudroom?
Bob, I don't know if you can go to the Rocky Point side there.
Picture?
Yeah, the picture there. Yeah, so the area to the left of the door, that wall is proposed to be extended. Where that fence is now, it would just extend out, so there's a little more sitting area up there. It would be gravel and it would actually minimize the amount of impervious surface by 30 square feet. So not significant, but it's basically sitting behind the wall you see there. It's just coming up a little higher.
Can we
So
circle
you're-
it on the
Can we
survey,
look at the
maybe?
Park view?
Yeah, it shows
Yeah.
on the survey, and essentially the view is from that pool looking between the two houses that are actually on the water. So, but in raising that wall and creating a little area there, it's the net result of that will be taking away 30 square feet of impervious surface and making it pervious.
So can,
Can you go back to look at the garage and where you're taking one unit out? And give us a look at it?
Yeah, was there another question about this work that Kent was just talking?
yeah, sorry, it's Tammy, staff. So it just came to light. Again, these are all new regulations. Staff is still digesting many of them. The retaining walls cannot be constructed within 10 feet of any property line. So existing retaining walls can be repaired, but you can't add a retaining wall if it's 10 feet within a property line.
So even though it exists now, it can't be made taller.
You can't, correct. Well, we might be able to, no, yeah, you're right, we can't, no.
What if it's above the grade? In other words, it's a retaining wall up to a point, and then it's freestanding above. Or we have to look at that.
Yeah, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, there's 500 pages of these that we're still trying to figure out.
Can you
And that's-
show me the Park view side with the 3 garage bays?
Yes. Where is it?
We got 2 drives.
This?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, essentially, the wall across there is almost is flush, right? All the way across. It's just that the situation of the garage doors is slightly out of balance. And you're picking the middle one and you're saying you're gonna eliminate that as a garage?
Right, so the far right and the far left would actually be parkable bays. The plan was to try and get an elevator. Again, it's such a squirrely stair where you go in and up, main front door, then you go up again to a corner landing, then you go up again to the pool, then you continue up again till you get to the bedroom level, and then another half story to get to the kitchen. So the plan was to put an elevator in, so you're not lugging groceries and whatever all the way through that maze of stairs.
I didn't look at the plan that carefully. As you go from garage 1 to 2 to 3, are they open to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one big open space, yes.
Okay. And then
Right now.
are you also including, let's say that you seal that off, is there a doorway that you were planning or a porch or what?
It's not that big. Oh, you mean outside?
Yeah,
No, the
ex-
garage door is the only thing to get you in there. And it's not that big inside, so you can walk around it. It's just a small mudroom to be able to get into a heated space to get into the elevator and go up.
Yeah, so you're gonna leave that structure there, the garage door, as you see it
Yes.
to remain?
For aesthetic purposes, and that's where we're gonna put the flood vents in so we can make this comply.
Okay,
But
thanks.
it's still gonna look like a garage door then, right? Kent?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the look is gonna remain the same, except it's gonna have that dormer on it. If you go to those elevations again,
And you're gonna have the pavement there to park on.
it's the same as what's there. Yeah, nothing from the outside, you won't even know, garage wise, anything changed.
But you're not proposing making that a more permeable surface.
No, it literally, we were leaving what exists. There's nothing really nothing on the site is changing. You know, we were talking about that stone wall area by the pool, but other than that, there's nothing that changes from what exists for the site now. It's just literally going up and over that roof line above that 2-car section of the garage.
And the driveway right now is not paved with permeable
It's
pavers.
pavers. It is pavers. It's not asphalt. I'm 99% sure it's pavers, but the plan was not, you know, to basically leave that as it was. Yeah, it's pavers.
Are they dry joints or you don't know?
Yes, they're not mortar joint pavers. It's dry joint.
That's kind of the equivalent of a semi-pervious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's usually the underlayment that allows water to drain through to the groundwater better
Mm.
with a permeable paver system. So I don't know what was installed underneath there.
Yeah.
Good question. I not that I'm an expert, but it seems that if you didn't have a way to drain underneath, water would get there and then you'd have frost heaves. And it would, when it froze.
I have another question, and maybe it's for Tammy. If you were to not do an addition on this house, but look at it new with the current regulations, is the existing portion of it exceeding the story count?
Possibly. Can you bring the section or I'll grab it?
No, I can get it. What are you looking for?
The section page? Yeah,
Yeah,
let's see.
there you
So
go. No, I think the answer is not right, Bob. If the front door was considered on Park, would,
no, I think Danielle's question is from Parkview, right, Danielle? Is that the question? From
Well,
Park-
it's because you have to consider both, right? So
Well,
you're not,
I think the answer is in the old variance. And that variance was just setbacks. There was no height variance.
So I think back then in 2002, they actually measured stories from the street center line, if I'm remembering that
I
correctly.
think you're correct.
But they also measured vertical number of feet.
Yeah, so it would have complied, yes.
You still had,
that's the
you still had a question of the number of finished stories. I think you also, wasn't, maybe not, but this complied under the old, there was no height variance before.
yeah, I'm asking for the existing structure
Right.
under the new regulations. So not the old regulations, but just the existing structure.
Right. I'm gonna open the plans and take a look. Give me just a second.
She might have to get a wheelbarrow to bring in the new.
A strange one.
Let me just see.
So I don't have the full details, but just looking at the section of the easterly or the portion where the front door entry is, that
Yeah.
may be non-conforming currently because again, we internally measure stories now. So they'd have to have 13, 11, and 11. And I think the way that was constructed, even under our old
It's
regulations,
too tall.
right, it's
I just got it. I just understood your question, Danielle. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This will not comply because the floor to floor height from the floor to the floor of the garage to the floor of this bedroom is too high.
Yeah.
It's more than 13 feet.
Yep.
So by way of the new regulations, this became a non-conforming situation. Where, another way.
Well, but we can't, wait a minute. I don't think they're making a change that would cause us to say it's impacted. It's grandfathered and it remains as is.
Oh, it's certainly grandfathered, but I thought the question was, could you build this as it exists today under the new regulations?
That may have been, but I'm just suggesting that we don't need to be concerned with that, Danielle, because there's not any piece of the proposed new construction that really impacts the rest of the house. So I don't think we have to say that it has to conform.
I was just wondering if it, like, because the issue is the first floor, which is existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and exactly, and now it counts as a story. And it also doesn't meet the 13-foot limit under the current regulations. But it goes in terms of hardship, it's that phrase, spring from the regulation. And these hardships spring from the current set of regulations. Because you could do this before without any issues. In fact, Kent went and spoke with the staff, when, in December sometime, Kent?
So the client didn't close on this house till early January. And I had gone in and met with Ian and showed, when we got the plans from Beinfield, who had done the original plans. And I don't know exactly when it was late December or whatever. And I sat down with Ian, and I unfortunately was not made aware, not that we would have had time to do it anyway. I was not made aware. He looked at it and saw the old survey, saw the old plans. I explained to him that we wanted to go up and over the garage, and he said, no issues. He said, you're staying within the footprint? I said, yes. He said, you're staying underneath the existing roof line? I said, yes. And he said, you should be fine. I was not aware of that this change was affecting this after my conversation with them. So, anyway, either way, we, to get all this together in time for the change, and obviously even with the change that happened, there was still a lot of, what are we looking for here for, which variants and why, and obviously the storage thing kicked in, and that's why we're in front of you now.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions of the board?
Yeah, Tammy, you were a little vague in your staff memo. Were you suggesting that there is a hardship because of the strange way the new regulations are posed?
I'm suggesting there's a hardship because of the current site conditions as they relate to now having to measure or determine stories from both of those frontages.
Right.
So
And
while,
a
sorry.
variance would cure that.
Correct, yes.
Well, the place looks a little bit like Liechtenstein Castle. You can look that up online, and you'll know what I mean. More power to anybody that's living there. That's a toughie. And if you can come up with improvements to it, God bless you.
It is certainly an interesting house.
Yeah, and obviously we're trying to work with what's there, because it was done very nicely, just as a guest house to being now a year-round living quarters. It just lacks a place that most people would end up every night in front of their TV, and that's all we're trying to grab.
Okay. Tammy, do we have any people with raised hands?
So we do have a couple of support letters. Attendees, if you want to comment for this proposal, just raise your hand. If you've dialed in, you press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. No raised hands.
Okay. Danielle, would you read into the record the letter that was submitted?
Yep, let me pull it up. Oh, did I not save it?
I have it right in front of me.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
All right. Oh man. Okay. from Guido Van Houwermeiren, apologies, to whom it may concern. Having reviewed the proposed plans and modifications to the above mentioned property, we have no issues with what is presented, which seems logical and totally reasonable, and only wish the new owner, Christy Jester, a good integration into the Rocky Point community. I am at your disposal for any more clarifications. Best regards.
Okay,
And then there's a kind of just list of neighbors who have reviewed the proposed plans and are in support of this application. So I'm gonna, Mike, I can't even,
Looks like
W, good, Win?
Excuse me, probably easier to read their addresses.
Yeah,
than to
7
read the
Rocky Point
signatures.
Road, Susie Robinson, 4 Rocky Point, David Pontus, 455 Beach, 15 Parkview, 3 Rocky Point, 1/2 Rocky Point, and 8 Parkview.
okay,
Yeah, we had a gathering of all the neighbors and explained everything, told them what we were doing, and everybody thought they liked the way it looked and they thought it was a reasonable request.
Staff didn't receive any opposition, either phone calls, emails, or letters.
okay.
Was there any attendee who wanted to speak in opposition? And if you've dialed in, you press *9 and then *6. There's nobody.
Okay. I don't think there's any need to have the applicant rebut because we've been through this thoroughly. We will close the item and move on to board actions, and we'll start with 2 Rocky Point Road, open for discussion.
Before you close the hearing, I just wanted to say thank you for your time and your consideration, especially since we have the dubious distinction of filing the first variance application under the new regulations.
Very dubious.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments from board members?
I'm ready to go on this one. I think it's rather straightforward.
I feel the same way. Not increasing the footprint. They've got a couple of minor retaining wall issues that I think can easily be worked out with staff and certainly would be noted in our conditions. But personally, I have no objection to this addition and the variance that's being asked for.
Yeah, and the hardship just seems to be application of the new zoning code as to story height.
Well, it's like that they couldn't go up without, they couldn't do anything without triggering it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see any modification suggested that is difficult to live with. It isn't expanding the footprint. It's not creating a towering building. It's not creating sore eyesight. It's nothing wrong with it. It's fine.
They're all towering buildings in that neighborhood. It fits right in.
Well, anything near the water is going to end up
Yeah.
there, unfortunately. Yeah.
And I really don't see any possibility of further additions to this house. I mean, this is probably it.
Unless you're filling the pool. Which
I don't think we would approve any additional site coverage for impervious surface.
No surface left.
Yeah, there is no
That's
surface.
right.
I think the pool is impervious, but that's just me.
It retains water though.
It does, and
So do I.
Would
anyway,
somebody like to make a motion on this?
yeah, I move that we approve the variance request with the hardship being the application of the new zoning code, where it's actually no created problem. And it does warrant the variance being granted.
The only thing I would add is that any situation arising from the construction, reconstruction of retaining walls be taken up with the P&Z staff.
So we have a second?
I'll second it. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Good. I think we're unanimous here in the approval.
Where's Ben?
Where'd Ben go?
I'm here.
Ben's here.
You disappeared, Ben.
Yeah, there he is. He's been quiet.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Maslin, I'd like to thank you for your presentation this evening, and we will now move on to item 24-0118-01. I think we can put some conditions on this application that would preclude any
Additional,
dwelling units within this structure, either in the basement or the space over the garage as a separate unit. I think that we can put Ms. Cece's fears to bed on this by adding the condition that no additional dwelling units be added within this structure or on the site.
I
Otherwise,
have a bit of a doubt about that, honestly, because of how the application has changed this month, because there's not really any way that you can like easily use the structure for a second dwelling, like the previous iteration. At this point, putting a condition on it would be basically just saying you're not allowed to do something that would be illegal anyways. And it could be that in the future, the house could be modified again to have a legal attached ADU. And there was points made about the parking, so like we'd have to hypothesize a future in which maybe the regs around ADUs were a little bit different. But I don't really see the need to put like a permanent ban on ADUs on this building, given how it's been presented to us today.
well, Ben,
hey, how do
nothing,
others feel?
it's not permanent if they come back and ask for a variance to do it in the future. But without a further variance to do it, then they can't do it just based on the plan that we would approve tonight. And the question got raised when we first looked at this thing is what was that weird space above the garage? And it's obviously an area that somebody can live in. There's a bathroom, there's a master bedroom, and it wouldn't take a whole lot of changes to make that a separate living area. But we don't really want to encourage that, so we can say not to do it.
I also think that the current plan, if you were gonna make like another dwelling unit, like it's that basement space
Yeah, that's true.
still that you'd go for.
Yeah, the one they were giving up, quote unquote.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the toughest part would be additional parking space on site. That requires a whole new review of the site plan, and I don't think our board would certainly approve that anyway.
No, but we have had applications that are kind of unusual that way, where they want to add a parking space because they want to add an apartment. And sometimes they don't have enough parking and they want us to vary it, and come on.
Yeah, I
Did he-
realize I'm extrapolating a little bit, but like, say you fast forward 10 years and the minimum parking regs change, they're lowered, say, that's no longer a barrier. And the current owner or future owner wants to have a legal, as of right ADU. But if we put this condition on this property, now they have like a special issue to get around that other properties would maybe not have, if that makes sense.
Let me lay some groundwork. This is a pond. We're trying to preserve the area around it. There is an issue with the dwellings on the street with requests having come in to expand the units, make them bigger and bigger and bigger, and block any view of the pond as you're going down. There was a traffic condition on there, which was somewhat fixed by making it one way. But it isn't just your average housing street. It is really pretty different. And, there's the water issue in back because of the rise and fall of the pond. I think you have a need to help preserve the pond, and you need to be careful about what we approve.
Yeah, I hear you. I guess I just because of how the plans have changed and how we're voting on what's been presented to us tonight, I don't really see what the condition gets us that hasn't already been like alleviated by changing the plans themselves.
So equally, you could surmise that in the future, having higher density will be an anathema, and that people won't want it more dense. That's a possibility. So
That's
having
a much bigger conversation.
somebody having their ADU into the house as of right might be definitely not welcome. Given the location, not just in general.
Yeah, I used to live on that part of East Avenue, actually. I'm pretty familiar with that area.
That's the water side or the other side?
I lived on the other side, but I was, just up the block, basically.
You there before they changed it to one way? Because that used to be a miserable street.
Yeah, I don't think I actually knew that it used to be two-way. I've always known it as one way.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not gonna die on this hill. I just thought I would interrogate the logic a little bit.
Well, I think we've all expressed some, or most of us have stated a concern for the development of the basement as a possible ADU. And I know I don't feel comfortable about leaving this open-ended with a possibility in the future. I'd like to prohibit that now. So a future ZBA doesn't have to deal with it.
Sure. I mean, the basement specifically, it was already illegal, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So we can put as many conditions on it as we want, and they could just do it again.
Well, they can do anything illegal that they think they can get away with. But, I'm not going to take it from that approach. Let's just say they want it to be legal, and somebody in the future, because this could be sold next week, somebody in the future comes in and says, I think we should add an apartment in here. Can we do it the way the plan was approved? And I think the answer should be no.
Okay. I agree with that, Andy. Would somebody make a motion on this item? I guess
I'll
I
make
will.
I'll make the
Make a
motion.
motion to approve the application as submitted with the prohibition of the development of the basement floor as a potential additional dwelling unit.
You had said earlier the site. Did you want to eliminate that? So you said, because there's, we do have possibility for a detached structure potentially would need variances as well.
Well, I'll leave that out. I'll leave that for a future ZBA to determine. I think future zoning staff or ZBA would certainly look at the record of this hearing and the application, and they probably would come to the same conclusion that we have, that the site is very constrictive and developing of an additional structure on the site is virtually impossible.
So
I'll leave that out.
I can live with that if you say no additional dwelling unit in the structure.
Okay, that's what I proposed.
No, you proposed basement.
Okay. Fine, I'll amend that. I want to make a motion that the application be approved with the condition that no additional ADU is developed within the
Approved structure.
structure as proposed.
Second,
Okay, Andy, all in favor of the motion? Raise your hand, say aye.
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 Okay,
I will abstain.
okay, we have 4 yays and 1 abstention.
Okay. So,
Thank you very much, everyone, for your time tonight. Happy weekend, and for those who celebrate, happy Passover.
Thank you, Ms. Suchi, pleasure, thank you.
Thank you very much.
maybe we should inquire before we shut this down, a vacation schedules. Ben had suggested he had wanted to take off in May. I had mentioned that I had a place to go in May, like Alaska. It looks, Ben, like I may not leave until a couple days after the meeting. So if you needed to get out of here in May, I can cover.
Our next
Remember I
meeting
asked
is the
you to cover
16th.
June?
Yes,
I'll be here.
Okay,
I might not be here. I might not be here, but I'll know within the week, but I'll give you notice for sure. I'm just juggling some dates.
okay.
and as I stated before, I'm gonna be out for the June meeting.
Yeah. I'm okay with June. Anybody else have a problem with June?
No problem.
Good.
Okay. Anybody else with vacation plans for the summer?
Just
Okay.
fall.
But it won't impact the meeting.
No, it won't. Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, moved.
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, let Ben second it.
I'm in favor.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Thank
Have
you.
a good time,
have a great
everyone. Good
month,
night.
everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, thank you.
Bye.